guys, how's it going? It's Al. Welcome to week 3 of NFL on DraftKings. We are going to make an NFL DFS lineup. We're going to go through the entire slate. We're going to look at where things are in terms of the running backs, the wide receivers. We've got a lot of potential 5-box running backs on this slate. I have to make a short about the 5-box running backs, and I don't know how I'm going to fit all of them into like 60 seconds. We're going to get that done, though. That'll be out on Tuesday. The recap video from week 2, if you wanted to see how everything went in week 2, including the cheat sheet, which is available for YouTube channel members here on YouTube in our Discord channel. That's all in the Al Smizzle Fantasy Football channel. Here are the links to all of that. The Fantasy Football channel, smizzle.tv/FF. The Discord, smizzle.tv/Discord. If you want to become a channel member, smizzle.tv/join. Those are the links that you need to know. Guess what? All of them are in the link tree, smizzle.tv/links. You can get there very easily. The link for that is going to be down below in the pinned comment. So let's take a look at this slate, build a lineup, and do all the things that we need to do. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a reply down below. Let me know how you did in week 2, and let's go.
He's a legend.
The Smiz Gang Listener League rides again in week 3. It is smaller. We should be able to fill this one. It's up to you. You guys got to fill it. If you don't fill it, they're just going to keep making it smaller, which means less prize money for you up top. So let's get it done. Great prize pool at $40,000. Still $10 to enter, 3 max. 10% of the prize pool goes to first, so $4K up top. Enjoy it. The link to that is in the link tree, smizzle.tv/links, and then click all the other things. Follow me on Instagram, join the Discord. If you become a channel member, you get access to the VIP rooms. That's where the cheat sheet comes out every single Friday, and the cheat sheet has been smashing through 2 weeks. Makes your life a lot more efficient as a daily fantasy player. But get in the Listener League, get your 3 entries in there, and let's get after it. Let's take a look at what we have on this slate. Thursday night is going to be the Giants of San Francisco. They're not on the slate. Bills play the Commanders. It's in Washington. Commanders 6.5 point dogs, 44.5 total. Houston Texans against the Jaguars, 8.5 point underdogs. This projects as another passing game script for Houston, and they're letting CJ Stroud throw it like 45 times a game. Those wide receivers probably going to continue to feast. The Colts against the Ravens. Ravens favored by 8. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be in this one yet because AR-15 is still in concussion protocol. If he starts this week, we prefer Richardson. If he does not start this week, then don't play him. 44 is the total there. The Broncos travel to Miami. Miami's 6.5 point favorites, 48.5 here. Tough situation at cornerback. Denver very, very good with Patrick Surtain. We'll see how well Miami can scheme to keep one of, if not both, Tyreek Hill and Waddle away from Patrick Surtain, and then whichever one doesn't catch him a ton will or that they scheme to get him open will probably be the one targeted on those plays. They'll have an if-then option for Tua every single time they approach the line of scrimmage for his pre-snap read. The Lions 4-point favorites over the Falcons. David Montgomery not expected to play here. Probably a 2-week recovery for him. We'll get into the running backs in just a bit. 45.5 total there in the Dome. The Chargers travel to Minnesota. 54 in a 1-point game. Woo, baby. The Minnesota Vikings are the fantasy carnival for us. They're the giving tree. They're everything that we want. They're everything that we need. They're the alpha and they're the omega when it comes to daily fantasy main slate football in 2023. Have absolutely loved playing them and against them on the primetime slate and on the first week slate. We'll see where this video takes us because you saw the cover. The Patriots and the Jets. Jets, 3-point underdogs here, 37.5. Titans against the Browns, 41.5. We could probably find something to do here in this game. The Saints travel to Green Bay. Green Bay by 2. Monitor the Aaron Jones situation as the week goes along. Panthers and Seahawks. Seahawks favored by 4.5 in this one. 42.5 is the total. Cowboys go to Arizona. How much is the Cowboys defense? I don't even know how much Cowboys defense is this week. It's going to be expensive. 13-point favorites. So let's see. We cut this in half. That makes 22. We cut this in half. That means what? 6.5. So 28.5 is the Cowboys total. Woo. Bears and the Chiefs, 13-point favorites, 49. Highest team total on the slate is going to be the Chiefs, and then everything else is on the night games. Let's go back over here to the listening league. Again, smizzle.tv/league, and make sure that you get into the league. Let's start with the quarterbacks. First thing I want to talk about. 1, 150 Josh Allen stacks all the time. 2, Just try to catch the week that he has like 40 fantasy points. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are 13-point favorites against a team that cannot stop the run. And so I kind of feel like Patrick Mahomes stacks and or double stacks are going to be ignored, underplayed, not in vogue, not the soup du jour. That's the soup of the day, which sounds good. I'll have that. You hear it way too often. They're just going to get up a ton and then they're going to run the football. Or Patrick Mahomes isn't going to play late in this game because they're going to beat the Bears by so much. Okay. Well, if they're in that situation where Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and some of the other starters aren't playing in the fourth quarter, that means that they're probably winning by 35 or 40 real life points. Even if they shut out the Bears, which they probably won't because that's not what happens in the NFL. Even if they're winning that game by 35 and the Bears have 10, that means 45 points for the Chiefs if it does completely blow out, which means that they've scored roughly 6 touchdowns on the day. If Patrick Mahomes is responsible for 2/3 of those touchdowns, that's a monster fantasy day. So I always advocate for going against what the public wants to think, the narrative that they're trying to write before things happen. Too big a spread, can't play the quarterback. No, you most definitely can play the quarterback, because if he throws for 320 yards and 4 touchdowns and doesn't play the second half of the fourth quarter, you're going to have more than enough fantasy points to compete. Lamar Jackson saw a return to rushing form for him with 12 attempts last week. They just don't have very much of a semblance of a running game right now. They are going to be able to pass the football. It's completed 72.7%, 77% of his passes in the first 2 weeks of the season. Has another kind of soft defense against Indianapolis at home in this one. Looked fine. Zay Flowers looks fantastic. Odell Beckham Jr. looks like he's going to be fine. Mark Andrews is back from his injury. And Bateman keeps getting better every single week. This is a team that's going to have to throw the football and rely on Lamar Jackson. Some big weeks are coming for him. Extremely expensive. Fields going up against Kansas City. We might expect more pass attempts in this game. The hope is that they can keep it close enough that they're within reach. If they can score 20 plus points in this game, then Justin Fields is probably going to have solid numbers. If you were going to stack him, I'd probably single stack. If you want to double stack, that's fine. There's two quarterbacks that I tend to single stack with. One is Justin Fields. The other is AR-15, because they just aren't really high volume throwers of the football. He was in week 1. If you throw 35 plus times, you can sustain 2 pass catchers in a stack if you have a tournament winning week. He has not gone off yet. We'll see if he does go off this next week. Tua, he's in the MVP talk right now, at least from what people are, the people that like to pontificate about those things are saying. A lot of turnovers from Tua, though. So Denver's defense might be in a situation. 2 fumbles both weeks. He only lost 1 of those. An interception in both those weeks. Doesn't always have the downfield arm to throw it to as fast as his receivers are. And you want somebody who's going to drop back and pass it a lot if you're playing a defense against him. Denver's defense could be underrated this week. Let's look at some of the cheaper options. Richardson up to 6,700, probably needs to be about 75. He's still underpriced if he plays. On his own team, though, Gardner Minshew's 5,100. No, not Sam Ehlinger. Gardner Minshew 5,100. I like him for tournament stacks this week. He'll be a nice budget stack as the week moves along, especially going in a situation where they're going to be pass heavy. He's got good enough receivers to be able to make things work. Deshaun Watson plays on Monday night. I try not to include the Monday night players on my first look videos because it's difficult if they get hurt. This is what I was talking about with CJ Stroud. Taking a look at them in the Houston Texans. 44 attempts in week 1 against Baltimore. Threw for 241, no touchdowns. Ran it 4 times. So we're not looking at a pocket quarterback. We're looking at a pocket plus, possibly a mobile guy. Once he gets his legs under him, can figure things out. He still looks a little bit frazzled out there, but looking solid enough throwing the football. Completed 30 of 47 attempts. If you throw it 45 times, you're going to have the opportunity to have players that are going to be able to feast. And as I said on Fantasy Football Now this week, Noah Brown, who was going to be their slot wide receiver, was placed on injured reserve. He is out for a spell, which opens up a lot of snaps and a lot of potential easy targets for somebody like Tank Dell. You also have Robert Woods, Bobby Trees, who has logged 19 targets through the first 2 weeks, doesn't have the massive upside that Dell or Collins have, as he is just not quite as spry as the other two, doesn't have the game breaking ability, but can log points for you as you need, and none of them are over 5,300. 53, 44, 36. A double stack with him opens up an awful lot, but that's not the route that I want to go. I mentioned that we are going to look for the fantasy carnival, and this dude's unguardable. I don't care what cornerback you have. And right now, it doesn't look like the Chargers cornerbacks are doing a darn thing. So Justin Jefferson should get his 10 to 15 targets this week. They are earned. They are not given. He earns them all the time. It always looks like there's no defensive back within like 5 yards of him anywhere that he is on the field. Anytime they throw him the ball, he has such great separation, and he gets it early and often. I want Justin Jefferson in this lineup. At the other side of it, we're going to have to pay for this. So DraftKings, while it did have some players that are massive values on the slate, they've certainly priced up Justin Herbert, coming off of a 25-point week against Tennessee, to 7,500. It does feel like they're doing some sort of a Coors Field thing with teams that are playing Minnesota to see him priced up here after 2 like okay weeks, not amazing weeks. But Kirk Cousins at 6,900 kind of makes things work really well. 44 attempts each of the first 2 weeks. And the craziest part about Kirk Cousins right now is not Kirk Cousins. It's the fact that there are really only 4 wide receivers playing. Sorry, pass catchers. 1, Justin Jefferson. 2, TJ Hawkinson. Really priced up. 6,500. 59 last week on full roster, even though they played on the primetime game, was at 52. 8 targets, 9 targets. He is going to get fed. If you want to try and fit him in, I'm all fine with it. Go get after it. Pay for him. I think he is super solid. Addison has looked really good and is not coming off the field. 5,500 for him. The only other guy who's playing at wide receiver is KJ Osborne, who's gotten 6 targets a game, but give me the downfield looks for Addison, as he has the most game-breaking ability for us for a tournament lineup. 62-yarder in week 2 against Philly. Tampa Bay, 39-yard touchdown against them. He's going to have single coverage. There are going to be shots. He is not going to be number 1 or 2 in terms of targets on this team. That's going to be Jefferson, and that's going to be TJ Hawkinson. But at 5,500, being able to target him at the wide receiver position allows me to look to the other side to bring my bring back play. We don't know what Eckler's situation is going to be. Kelly disappointed. It might be a flop lag week for him. For those of you who used to play online poker and know what flop lag means, which means that I'm down to 1 of 3 players. 1, Keenan Allen, 10 targets, 9 targets. We know what he brings to the table. A lot of the short and underneath throws go his way. He's a target monster, low ADOT throws for the most part, but he's priced up at 7,600. Priced all the way down at 3,800 is Gerald Everett. I was expecting more out of Gerald Everett, and I do want to say that week 3 and week 2 are the 2 most dangerous weeks on the fantasy schedule for me. Because after week 1, it's all about anchor bias and sticking to what you felt coming into the season, not just looking at 1 week sample size and changing and blowing up everything. Week 2, now we have 2 weeks of data, and so we tend to feel more comfortable, and I don't think you should. So like, people are going to look at this and say, well, Gerald Everett he's only getting 3 targets, so like he sucks. 1, I don't think he sucks. My concern though is that Parham has been the one that's getting more snaps and targets inside the red zone and inside the 10-yard line for plays originating inside the 10-yard line. So my fear is that Everett's touchdown ceiling could be capped, though I believe that he is in play this week against Minnesota, A, because of the matchup, 2, because he fits very well in a bringback or a secondary stack spot. For those of you who don't know what a secondary stack is, it's 2 correlated players, not involving a quarterback, not unlike Deebo Samuel and Puka Nacua in week 2. But I'm going to go with the nice, tasty, not super expensive, not super cheap. Give me Mike Williams at 6K, coming off a 13 target week, no touchdowns through 2, still has big playability, assuming I'm right now assuming that Eckler still may miss this week. They're not going to push him as hard as you might think, especially with a second situation here with a road game. So we're spending a lot, leaving us with 4,400 remaining. You might think, Al, how are you going to make this work? Well, let's talk about how we're going to make this work. One, we know that we can pay down at defense. Cowboys 4,400 against Arizona. They're 4,400. That's our average salary remaining. We're not going to be able to fit them. Chiefs, blowout situation. Chicago, 17 points allowed to Tampa Bay's defense last week. Jaguars against Houston. A lot of sacks there with their bad offensive line. Potentially a lot of expensive ways to go if you wanted to pay up to be contrarian on defense, which I do like in large field tournaments. However, I also like paying down at defense because it's so very random. So we've got to find situations where we're going to have a quarterback who's going to drop back to pass a lot and has possibilities to turn the football over. Well, one, we have the Jets at 2,800. That's a situation that we might want to attack. Texans against Jacksonville, 2,500. Mentioned the Broncos against Miami at 2,500. Colts against Baltimore, not really as interested in that, but the Commanders defense, that front seven is kind of scary. Playing at home against Buffalo, I'll take them for 2,400. Plug whatever cheap defense you want. We'll zero in on defenses later in the week, but the Commanders pass rush against Josh Allen, who does have turnover propensities, is something that we do want to take a look at. Now, Tony Pollard has, like I said, there's a lot of 5-box running backs this week. We're gonna talk about him. He's not one because he does not play at home. The 5 boxes that I like to look at, every one of them is powerful in its own in terms of projecting and reflectively showing that these situations, these trends, as Fantasy Labs calls them, are situations that lead to fantasy scoring over expectations. They are running backs who have inside the 5 carries, running backs who play at home, running backs who have involvement in the passing game, project for 20 plus opportunities, that's targets plus rush attempts, and those who are favored. They are heavily favored in this game. And Tony Pollard's coming off of a 33 opportunity game. That's a lot. And now he gets to go up against Arizona. And that in itself is a lot. He brings great floor with the amount of targets that he gets. He's 8,000, finally rightfully priced where he belongs. We saw Bijan Robinson get 24 opportunities this week in week 2. 20 points in week 1 on limited duty, less than Algier. In week 2, he outsnapped and outtouched Algier. This could be a yo-yo situation week in and week out. Chubb and Henry, 2 guys that are typically under 5% on DraftKings because they don't catch a ton of passes. Chubb, that may change. We have to get the data from the Monday night game. I think he's going to catch more passes this year than he's ever caught at any point in his career. Aaron Jones Jr., monitor the injury. Too early for me to tell. He was inactive this week. We'll see if that leg injury clears up. Travis Etienne had cramps, so that cued by his name currently at 6,900 seems like it's something that we could take advantage of. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier on the show, there's a lot of opportunity at wide receiver for us to get the value that we need with only 4,300 remaining, and Tank Dell's 3,600. Why would we not? Why would we not do this? Why would this be a thing that you don't do? Knowing that he's going to play like 90% of his snaps in the slot, knowing that they should be in, let's say, good game script situations, meaning they're going to be losing and have to throw the football. And he is an explosive wide receiver, got 2 end zone targets for somebody that is diminutive as he is in his first game as the starter. Love Tank Dell in week 2. Absolutely love him still at 3,600. This is somebody who should probably be priced at about 4,500 based on his current role and situation on the Houston Texans. We have 2 spots remaining that need to be filled. One of them is at tight end. You know we can't afford the expensive guys. Go attack them as you will. Travis Kelce, absolutely fantastic. Has not been so far this year. Missing week 1, 12.6 in week 2. The underlyings are what we look at. Good end zone targets, good red zone usage. 9 targets in this game. Only caught 4 balls for 26 yards. I love the fact that people are going to look at this right here, the amount of fantasy points that he got, and not look at this and then what leads to these touchdowns in this spot. Travis Kelce going to be probably 10 to 15%, just like he is every single week. Maybe less this week if people fall for the narrative of they're heavily favored and so therefore we can't play options in the Kansas City passing game. You most certainly can, specifically in large field tournaments. Even in hundos, you can definitely play them. Andrews against Indy. Hawkinson looking like somebody who's going to get 6-7 plus targets every single week, and touchdowns abound in their games because their offense is extremely difficult to stop and their defense can't stop anybody, which leads to a lot of fantasy goodness. Hunter Henry caught another touchdown, 6 targets and 7 targets for him, 4,100, another amazing 18 to 20th round best ball pick. Hopefully you hammered a whole bunch of him on Underdog and DraftKings in the offseason. Sam Laporta has been very steady through 2 weeks with 5 catches in both games, only priced up 100. Seems like a good salary release valve, but we got to get cheaper. We got to get cheaper. We got to come all the way down. And in this range, there's a few guys that I like. Chigo Conquo, 3,200. Dawson Knox, not thrilled about him. Kincaid is not out snapping him, but out route running him and out targeting him. And Dawson Knox got the touchdown, the big shiny thing. But he is not there to be a massive option. Troutman has a fantastic matchup against Miami. But he's going to be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in that offense as that offense goes. 1 target last week, 5 the week before. Granson got into the end zone, averaging 5 targets a game through 2. I think he's a solid floor play, meaning he's got a high floor. If he can get a touchdown, that gives us access to a ceiling, but it's going to be tough. He doesn't have the massive game-breaking ability. Another floor play that I kind of like is Durham Smythe. On the field, an absolute ton, and not really pass blocking a lot either. He is out there to be a part of the route and catch passes. So it's not always going to be guys like Braxton Berrios catching passes. It's not always going to be these other, River Craycraft. You're going to get some Smythe catches, 3 catches in both of the first 2 weeks. I can't decide. I'm just going to go with Smythe. I'm gonna click Smythe into this lineup against Denver and see if we can't get a situation where he sneaks in after 2 weeks of great usage for us, but not finding his way into the end zone. This could be the week that he pays off and opens up some salary. So we have 6,500 left to go, which is a great range for running backs right now. We'll start from the bottom and then work our way up. A lot of backup running backs down here. Elliott, Algier, Hubbard. Herbert's a lead guy, but not exactly where I want to go this week. Pirine, also a 40% guy. Pierce, not really getting a lot of usage because of how much they're playing from behind and how much they have to throw. It has not been efficient either with the runs that he has gotten behind that terrible Houston offensive line. Isaiah Pacheco could be interesting this week, and I kind of feel like he's going to be extremely chalky, as the crowd tends to say, well, he's going to get 25 carries and run for 2 touchdowns. And he very well might against this Chicago defense, because far be it from me to tell you to not play running backs against Chicago, but they have not given him more than 14 opportunities through 2 weeks. He could be a 15-16 opportunity guy this week, but they're going to mix in some They're going to mix in some CEH. They're going to mix in some Jerick McKinnon. So you're just not going to get a heavy dose there. Same thing goes for Javonte Williams. Good usage, but again, I don't think this is going to ramp up until later in the season when he's going to be a 20 opportunity guy. Hopefully by that point, maybe in late November or early December, he seems to be a 15 opportunity guy. I know he had 19 in the first week, but they're trying to take it easy with him. He has not been super efficient. Love his talent, love his tackle breaking ability, and his usage in the passing game is something that is very, very much a boon for him moving forward. Breece Hall ain't right yet. We saw this when he got caught from behind on that 83-yard run. He has not been efficient outside of that 83-yard run for the Jets. He is talented. He is going to be good. I'm not buying it just yet until he is. Brian Robinson Jr., however, I am buying, just not in this particular game. He is at home. He is going to get volume. 20 opportunities incoming. He has been very good with them so far. 5,800 for him, but I'm going to look up in this range and realize that Mostert had a good game. Montgomery is out. If you want to try and get up to Jahmyr Gibbs because of the Monty injury, the 9 targets that he got last week, fine. Trim some salary here for 100 somewhere and get up to him. James Cook has been very good if you want access to that Bills offense. 10 targets through 2 weeks. Ran very well this week. But we're going to attack the 3-legged wildebeest, and that is the Carolina rushing defense. They have been exactly what we've wanted to attack. Them and the Bears have been 2 defenses we've attacked for the last couple of seasons. I'm not stopping now. Seattle wants to give him the ball, and they want to give him the ball around the goal line anytime that they get in there. 6,200 is still too cheap. Attack the three-legged wildebeest. Don't go and try and take down the biggest, strongest wildebeest out there. Go attack the weak one at the back that only has 3 legs. It's very easy to do. Ken Walker fits very well into this lineup. Kirk Cousins, Travis Etienne, bringing him back with Tank Dell, Ken Walker, Cousins double stacked with Jefferson and Addison, bringing him back with Mike Williams. Smythe to make it all work with the Commanders defense. You can go super premium and still have 300 on the table here in week 3. Hopefully it works out. Week 3 is always a tough week. Wish you all the best. See you in Discord. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.